Now that we have looked at elements of conflict, some do's and don'ts in managing conflict, and things to keep in mind when you find yourself in a situation where emotions have escalated, let's walk through a few brief scenarios in order to apply some of the concepts we've discussed. Billy is a student in Miss Lowe's first period English class who has been struggling during the first 6 weeks of school. He is difficult to redirect, arrives to class late at least 2 days a week, and struggles staying awake periodically. His mother arrives a few minutes late for a routine parent-teacher conference, and as Miss Lowe begins discussing her observations, Billy's mom states that Billy has never had problems before and that she's never been asked to come in for a meeting like this until he was placed in this class. Billy's mom appears frustrated that she even has to be at the meeting and states that she just wishes things would get back to normal. What information is standing out to you? What indirect communication, if any, is the mom engaging in? Are there any statements where clarification may be needed? Let's take a moment and process through this scenario together. To begin, we notice that Billy is having difficulty getting to school on time consistently, and once there, he's fatigued. Ironically, his mother is also late to the meeting that was scheduled with her. While we don't know for sure if there's a connection here, it's safe to assume that if mom has difficulty organizing or managing her time in order to keep commitments, it will be difficult for her to support Billy in doing the same. Creating an expectation of mom to take sole responsibility for managing a problem area that she might also struggle with will likely create defensiveness. So identifying and communicating ways that Miss Lowe may help Billy with being more organized and timely are a way for her to partner with mom and show her willingness to focus on the problem and not the person. In addition, mom doesn't appear concerned about the reports about her son. She is frustrated about having to even be at the school, and she even takes a jab at Miss Lowe by making an insinuation statement about Billy not having problems until he was placed in Miss Lowe's class. While this type of indirect statement communicates a personal negative message, exploring it will only create additional tension and emotion. The more important statement, and the one that will help Miss Lowe with moving forward to identify necessary supports and impactful solutions to current obstacles, is the final one that mom makes concerning things getting back to normal. By working to identify the problem and offering up ways that Miss Lowe may be able to help, there's a greater chance that mom will be open to being a partner in finding a solution. In addition, by being empathetic and asking mom what the normal she is wanting to return to looks like, Miss Lowe may be able to better understand all that is impacting Billy outside of school. Consider how the following response to the mother's comment from Miss Lowe would have been received. I hear you saying that there are a lot of new changes going on and that Billy has been able to navigate assignments and get good grades in previous years without the need for meetings or intervention. I want for Billy to experience success this year, just as he has in previous years, and I would love to partner with you to give him the best shot at accomplishing this. Being able to identify what may be getting in his way is an important step. Tardiness and even fatigue during class are things I see from many students from time to time and can actually be age appropriate. I will focus on ways to engage him in class, and I'll even see if I can provide him information about time management and developing a morning routine. In addition to me doing this, I heard you mention that you just wish things would get back to normal. Can you help me to better understand what this normal looks like for you and your family? And if there is any way that I can help? These types of conversation starters, ones that incorporate understanding, communication, a desire to help, and willingness, and a desire to partner for the purpose of student success, can limit defensiveness and allow for communication to occur around things that are meaningful, impactable, and changeable. Let's take a look at another scenario, this time involving a student in the classroom. Jill has historically been one of the highest performing students in Mr. Brown's class. However, today, she doesn't seem to be herself. She fails to make eye contact with Mr. Brown when he greets her good morning, and she immediately goes to her desk upon entering the room, as opposed to chatting with her friend group the way she does most of the time prior to the bell ringing. As class begins, Mr. Brown continues noticing Jill being dismissive of others. And at one point, Jill even makes a rude comment to the student sitting next to her. Then, when Mr. Brown directs the class to pair up for an activity, Jill kicks at a peer who attempts to pair up with her. As Mr. Brown approaches Jill, Jill states in front of the entire class that he will be sorry if he gets any closer to her. Mr. Brown sees this as a threat, which won't be tolerated in class. And as he continues closer, he redirects Jill, eventually standing over her as she continues to remain seated. Mr. Brown then asks Jill what the issue is this morning, and before he could ask how he can help her, Jill interrupts and begins talking over him. Mr. Brown, in turn, raises his voice louder than Jill's in an attempt to get the point across that Jill can't be rude to others and that all he's doing is trying to help, drop the attitude, and communicate what is needed. Jill stands up, curses at Mr. Brown, and unintentionally hits him in the arm with her book bag as she attempts to throw it over her shoulder to leave. Mr. Brown informs Jill in front of the class that what she has done can be considered assault, and Jill turns and walks out of the classroom. What stands out to you when reading this scenario? What could Mr. Brown have done differently to produce a more positive outcome? What role did Mr. Brown play in escalating things? Let's take a moment and process through this scenario together. Mr. Brown appears to have established a good working relationship with and awareness of his students, based on the fact that he quickly recognizes that Jill doesn't seem to be herself. Rather than ignoring her or assuming what is going on is insignificant, Mr. Brown also attempts to connect with Jill in a positive way by greeting her, which is an attempt to build on whatever connection he has with Jill. An opportunity was missed, however, to more directly connect with Jill prior to the class starting, to see if there is any support that she may need. Missed opportunities continue once class begins. Remember Jill being dismissive of those around her? And her making a rude comment to the student next to her? Clearly, Jill wasn't wanting to or ready for interactions with others. Yet she was put in that situation once Mr. Brown directed everyone to pair up for an activity. Take a moment and consider what could have occurred to prevent Jill from being in this situation. Did you come up with any alternatives that may have produced a different outcome? Could Mr. Brown have requested for Jill to sit with him and not immediately be paired with a classmate? Or could Jill have been given a moment while the other students began the activity? Mr. Brown could have taken the opportunity to partner with Jill himself for the activity, to better gauge her state of mind and willingness to either talk about what was going on or participate. Mr. Brown may have even realized that there was a significant issue that Jill was dealing with and provided her with an opportunity to problem solve what was going on, or maybe even take time away from the group, or even make contact with a parent or family member. As you can see, there were several options that could have provided Mr. Brown with a better understanding prior to class starting and students being paired up. Many times we see things happening in class amongst students that don't necessarily require us to intervene. However, if left alone, these interactions can often escalate into situations where intervention is required, or worse yet, where safety is compromised. The old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is certainly applicable here. As we continue through this scenario and Jill's emotions and aggressions continue to build, the situation transitions from one where intervention could be provided to one where intervention must be provided, as Jill has now escalated and safety concerns are now an issue. Let's work our way through the rest of this scenario utilizing the de-escalation debrief questionnaire from the previous module as a way to evaluate Mr. Brown's interactions with and responses to an escalated student. Do you have the questionnaire in front of you? Great. Now answer questions 1 through 8 to evaluate how Mr. Brown responded to both the initial conflict as well as the student once she became escalated. Then complete question 9 on the de-escalation debrief questionnaire by brainstorming what can be done moving forward in order to resolve any lingering issues associated with the incident, as well as what will be done differently moving forward. Conflict isn't comfortable. It's challenging, intense, and emotional, and necessary in order to smooth out differences, sharpen understanding, and discover solutions. As we shift our perspective of what conflict is and develop a better understanding of the benefits of working through it, we will strengthen our relationships with others and discover solutions that benefit everyone involved. By avoiding the eye traps of insinuation, implication, and innuendo, and remembering to take ownership, acknowledge the other person, look for a win-win resolution, and know your boundaries and limits, you will be able to better manage conflict situations and prevent things from escalating. In the words of author Thomas Crum, the quality of our lives depends not on whether or not we have conflicts, but on how we respond to them.